In a narrow Calcutta street filled with heat and the smell of waste, a man lay dying on the broken ground. His body was thin as sticks. His breath came in short, weak gasps. People walked past without stopping. Cars and carts moved by as if he were not there. Then a small woman in a plain white sari with a blue edge knelt down. She lifted his head onto her lap. She stayed with him until his last breath left his body. She did not give a long speech. She did not promise to make him well. She only made sure that one person left the world knowing someone had seen him and cared. That quiet moment would travel far across the world. Yet the woman who did it carried a deep, private silence. Even the people closest to her did not know how heavy it was until her private letters came out after she died. The child who grew into that woman was born on a hot August day in 1910. The place was Skopje, a dusty town still ruled by the Ottoman Empire. Her name was Agnes Gonca Bojaxiu. She came from an Albanian Catholic family in a land of many different beliefs. Her father Nicola sold goods and always brought strangers home to eat. He told his children that no meal was right unless they shared it with someone who had less. Her mother Dranophile had the same open heart. When Agnes was only 8 years old, her father died without warning. Some people whispered that he had been poisoned because of his work in local politics, but no one ever proved it. The family lost almost everything overnight. Dranophile did not hide away. She took needle and thread, sewed cloth, and sold it in the market. She still fed the hungry people who came to their door. Young Agnes watched her mother every day. She learned that pain does not have to close a heart. It can open it wider. By the time she was 12, a quiet feeling grew inside her. It told her that her life belonged to God and to helping others. By 18, the feeling was too strong to ignore. Agnes left her home knowing she would never come back. She would never see her mother again. The train took her first to Ireland, to a convent of the Sisters of Loreto in Dublin. There she had to learn English. The new language felt strange in her mouth. The distance from home felt endless. Then came the long sea journey to India. In January 1929 she stepped into Calcutta. The air was thick and heavy. The streets never emptied. The smells of spice, smoke, river water, and too many people pressed in from every side. She spent 2 years learning the ways of the convent in the cooler hills of Darjeeling. She took the name Teresa, after a French saint who taught that small acts done with great love matter most. Then the order sent her back to the city to teach. For almost 20 years Sister Teresa stood in classrooms and taught geography and history to girls from families with money. She was a good teacher. The other sisters liked her. She became the head of the school. From the outside her life looked steady and complete. But every day the high wall of the convent stood between her and a different world. Calcutta in those years was full of deep need. The Great Famine of 1943 left many dead and many more begging at every gate. She could hear their voices through the stone. The difference between the quiet school and the suffering outside grew sharper until it hurt. On the 10th day of September in 1946, she boarded a train again. She was going to the hills for a time of prayer. Somewhere on that slow ride with the green hills sliding past the window, a new certainty filled her. She later called it the call inside the call. She felt sure that God wanted her to leave the safe walls of the convent. She must go into the open streets. She must meet the poorest people face to face, hand to hand, in the dirt and the dark. Getting permission took 2 full years and reached all the way to Rome. In 1948 she walked out of the convent for the last time. She put away the black habit. She wrapped herself in a simple white cotton sari with a blue border, the same cheap cloth that the poorest Indian women wore. She had no money. She had no group of helpers. She had no clear plan. She had only the decision to begin. She went first into the Moti Chil area, one of the poorest parts of the city. Families lived in shelters made of cardboard and bits of metal. Open drains ran beside small cooking fires. Children with bare feet ran through dirty water. She found a group of them sitting in the mud and began to teach them letters. She wrote the shapes in the dirt with a stick. There was no classroom. There were no books. There was only the ground and the will to start. Those first weeks were the hardest of her life. Her private notes from that time say the wish to go back to the convent, to a bed, to regular meals, to the company of other sisters, was almost too strong to fight. She was a woman near 40 from Europe, alone in the most desperate streets. She had to beg for her own food. She slept wherever she could find a dry place. Still, she stayed. Former students from her old school heard what she was doing and came to help. The little school in the dirt grew step by step, but the people who were already dying pulled at her heart the most. Every day people died on the sidewalks of Calcutta. They died from tuberculosis, cholera, leprosy, or simple hunger. Hospitals turned the worst cases away. They died without anyone saying their names, without anyone holding their hands. In 1952, 2 years after she started the Missionaries of Charity, she opened a home for the dying. She called it Nirmal Friday, which means pure heart. The city gave her a building beside a Hindu temple. The rooms held only rows of low beds and clean sheets. The work was not mainly about medicine. Many who came were past any cure. The strong idea was simpler. No person should die alone and unloved. The sisters walked the streets, lifted the dying from the gutters, washed their bodies, gave them food, and stayed beside them. A Muslim heard words from the Quran. A Hindu received water from the holy river. A Christian was given the last prayers of his faith. Each person was allowed to leave the world with dignity and with the knowledge that someone had cared. Not everyone welcomed the work. Some people accused her of trying to change the dying into Christians. Some doctors said comfort was not enough without better medical care. She did not argue long. She said only that they were not there to be successful. They were there to be faithful. She opened more places for people with leprosy. She washed their sores with her own hands. She touched faces that families and neighbors had turned away from for years. The group of sisters grew from one house in Calcutta into a wide network that crossed India, and then the whole world. By the end of her life, more than 4,000 sisters worked in over 130 countries. They ran homes for orphans, places for the dying, clinics for the sick, and kitchens for the hungry. In 1979, the world gave her the Nobel Peace Prize. When the committee told her about the formal dinner planned in her honor, she asked them to cancel it and give the money to the poor instead. They agreed. In the city of Oslo, she spoke not about power or politics. She spoke about a hidden kind of poverty she had seen even in rich cities of the West. The deep loneliness of being unwanted and unloved. Presidents and princes wanted to meet her. Cameras followed her through the poor streets. She always told the reporters not to look at her. She told them to look at the poor. Her own body grew weaker. She had serious heart trouble in 1983. And again in 1989. She fell and broke her collarbone. She caught malaria. She tried to step down from leading the sisters. They voted to keep her. She kept working until her strength was gone. Only after she died on the 5th of September in 1997 did the full truth of her private letters become known. People expected to read the words of a woman who lived in constant light and close to God. Instead, the pages showed nearly 50 years of deep inner darkness. From the year she left the convent until her last months, she wrote of feeling nothing. No sense of God's presence, no warmth, no answer to her prayers. Where is my faith? The letters ask. Even deep down there is nothing but emptiness and darkness. Teachers of the spiritual life had a name for this kind of experience. They called it the dark night of the soul. Some great holy people in the past had known it for a time. Almost no one had lived in it for so long. For 50 years the woman whose face became a sign of kindness for the whole world rose every morning, walked into the streets, held the dying, and built a global work of care while feeling completely alone inside. She never told the world about the silence. She never stopped the work. The outer life of steady service went on without the inner comfort that might have made it easier. History keeps the picture of the small woman in the blue, edged sari, the one who received high honors and met the powerful, the one who started a worldwide family of helpers. It is only slowly learning the full cost written in those letters, a calling carried through half a century of unanswered prayer. The train that carried a young sister through the green hills in 1946 still moves in the mind. The slopes sliding past the window, the sudden and clear knowing that took shape in the quiet of the carriage. She answered the call. She left the safe world a second time. She walked into the poorest streets with nothing but a sari and a strong purpose. Then the confirming voice fell quiet and stayed quiet. The work continued anyway. In that steady going on lies a question that lasts longer than any prize or public praise. What does it mean to stay true to a calling when every private sign of comfort has gone away? How much of the good done in the open world depends on a willingness to keep working, even when the heart feels empty? History has looked at the public record with respect. Whether it has fully understood the private weight she carried is still an open question. What part of her story stays with you most? The young girl